Hey guys, welcome to Bite Me. This is the interview with Dragonflies and Whiskey, aka Amy. We're going to talk about white men, entitlement in the workplace. Living in the Midwest, I've had more than my fair share of experience with entitled white men, especially at work. I've been a secretary, a receptionist, administrative assistant, assistant to the administrative assistant, and every title amounted to one single solitary job description that some privileged white dude tells us all what to do, and we have to make his life easier. That is to be treated as a commodity rather than an employee. Now, one could argue that in today's society, with the Great Resignation going on and such, that everyone feels undervalued, and that is true. Corporate America has some things to work on regarding just basic human decency. But for women in particular, it's Machiavellian. That's why today I've brought on Dragonflies and Whiskey from TikTok to figure out just what the hell Doug's problem is. Now, Amy, or if you'd like to be called Doug, would you please introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I am Amy, the president of WeMAD, Women Make All Decisions, username Dragonflies and Whiskey on TikTok. And I've created a couple of characters, Doug being the most common, your basic Midwestern.
It's like the equivalent of Karen, but for men. It's better than
right, but he's not going to the manager anytime soon. So
right.
Very cool. We like to put him in his place. So it's just kind of the whole WeMAD situation just kind of took off with a flip of the roles between men and women, kind of based on how society is today and the absolute absurdity of sexism and misogyny in the workplace, in the world, everywhere.
Yeah, it's insidious. And it is all over the world. I often bitch about it on TikTok in America, but women from other countries will tell me, no, we have that here too.
Yeah.
So, but your TikToks are funny, dude. They're like funny. You guys got to go watch them. Oh my gosh. If I'm having a bad day, that's where I go. They're sadly also extremely accurate. And so who was your muse in specific? Like, who was the Doug in your life that was the catalyst for the brilliant post? Like, just tell us your experience.
So honestly, in terms of a muse, it's been my own life experience. I don't have anyone in particular. My muse for Doug has been women in the world, honestly. And my experiences with watching women cower or be put in their place or be shut down because of loudmouth white men, who tend to hold the majority of the power. And I'm seeing a switch. I'm seeing more and more women say, no, wait a minute, I'll puff out my chest too. And I can yell right back at you. I've got a voice and I'm loving every minute of it. But, in terms of a muse and all of that, I would say, honestly, it's more of a catalyst. And the catalyst was having daughters myself. And again, seeing some of the absurdity that's happening now in terms of legislation, in terms of the abortion laws and these white men that are passing these laws across desks where there are no women voices involved to talk about their own bodies or protecting their own bodies, and these men that har around about, here's what we're going to do in terms of women's bodies and the laws that we're going to place on them and what we're going to do for doctors, and you're required to turn in women that come in here wanting to have an abortion, and what in the absolute fuck
Handmaid's Tale, man.
It's absurd. So, I've got a voice. At 18, I shaved my head. I said, fuck this. And, no man's going to catcall me ever again. And once they figure out I'm a chick and they get pissed about it, good, be pissed. And so I was done. Like at 18, I was done. Pierced all up, tattooed. I was done. Shaved head, didn't shave anything. And I'm like, didn't shave anything else. And I'm like, you're never going to hit on me again. I had enough. And because of that, I think was my own awakening personally. And, it was a really good opportunity for me to be like, look, I have a place in this world and it's not going to be where you're telling me it is. So this is my place in the world and I'm going to carve my own path. And so I found my own voice, but now, flip forward 25, 30 years and it's like, oh, well, shit. So I've got two twin girls. They're 8. They're learning about boys and attraction and how they feel about different things and girls and themselves and how the world treats them. Or how the world could potentially treat them. And I'm looking more through, a telescope of even a microscope at this point of, well, this is the way the world is. And I can't believe that more and more things are happening in a backwards type angle where my daughters are going to be exposed to this. They are going to have to learn that a person that we put in presidential status said, grab them by the pussy. Like, no, that's never acceptable. And me not included, you not included, but this ridiculous ability to lift this person up into some sort of position of power that speaks on behalf of women in that way. That's not okay. And I, so again, going back to your question, the catalyst was having girls and saying, I'm going to help them find their voice, and enough is enough. And instead of being, coming across as the angry lesbian that everyone loves to be angry with all the time, like that we have enough of that stereotype, right? Oh, it's the angry lesbian. Here we go. I'm like,
or women are crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. They're so aggressive. And why are they so upset? And it's like, no, I'm not upset like that. I'm not upset like that. I'm going to flip it and I'm going to show you how ridiculous y'all look, and let's laugh about it. And, at least if anything, through the feedback that I've gotten, it's allowed women a release of some of that tension through humor, as opposed to through anger, because we've had enough of anger. That's for sure.
I mean, you bring up a couple really good points there that really stand out in my mind. Like, for one, there's the ignorance of the men, and there's blind ignorance and then there's voluntary ignorance. So in my partner's case, he and I were having coffee this morning, and I was describing your TikToks to him and how you flipped the narrative. And he said to me, Amy,
oh no.
He's like, oh, I never really thought about it was like that for women in the workplace. I was like, yeah, I know you fucking didn't, Eric. I know you didn't. Which to me makes me double angry, because I'm like, you're a minority in the workplace, but the thing is, he's still a man. Yeah. And so there is that where it's not dawning on them that this is happening. And then you bring up the point about how we have to, and it's weird because you think about having daughters and you think about all sorts of things that you're going to have to teach them when you raise them, but you don't think, oh, I'm going to have to train you every day to unlearn the societal expectations that are placed upon us that we don't even realize are being subconsciously ingrained into our brains. Like, I had to tell my daughter, you can say no and you can set boundaries. Absolutely. No is a full sentence. Things that won't be asked of my sons are asked of her, to please people and be pleasing. I'm That's like, right. No. So, I mean, there's spiritual as fuck. And then there's also, who's the other one? Oh, yes, Running with Scissors. And they both say, raise your daughter.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Siobhan, you know her. Yep. And so she's been on here too, but she says, raise your daughters, be disrespectful. And spiritual as fuck says, don't be nice. And I think those are two quality ingredients to raising girls to weather this society that you just described, where it's almost going backwards. Yeah.
The people pleasing is so huge. I mean, women, girls, we're all constantly told, smile, look pretty, like you don't want to look angry. You don't want to look this way. While boys are just told to behave however they behave, and boys will be boys, They're just out here living their lives. Like, fuck, man. All right. Yeah. So women who are listening to this, that everyone at home is rolling their eyes. They know this is not a new thing. We've all been through it. So do you it's been like this in the workplace since always, seemingly. But you just said that you're talking about Trump coming into power and how things seem to be going backwards. What is the cause? This is it's going to sound like a dumb question, but tell us why you think things are going backwards, or maybe how we can regress from that. Yeah, I think what we're seeing moving in the wrong direction is the loudest. So I don't think as a whole, and this is just me personally, as a whole, I don't think our society is moving in the wrong direction. And that might sound weird. I think what happens to be the loudest right now is what's the most visible. And I think what's the loudest right now are this abortion laws, because they're that mind fucking blowing that it's absolutely absurd. Yeah. Women know it. Some men are starting to figure it out, through education, through their wives, through women that are speaking out more openly now, and the generations that are coming up behind us. I hope that women aren't seeing those things and thinking we are doomed, because we're not doomed. Women have continued to stick up for themselves. We have continued to forge forward and push our way forward, whether with our voices, whether with our rallies, you name it. And we have a huge power in numbers. Women are so fucking brilliant, so brilliant. I mean, it's proven time and time again. I just read an article yesterday that talked about how men tend to, I can't even think of the right words for it. They tend to think that they're smarter than they actually are. No, they actually think they're smarter than, so they present themselves that they're so smart, but they're actually being knocked down a notch because they're realizing that they've been fed all of this. I'm a man in the world, blah, blah, right? So
conscious arrogance.
Exactly, right. Yeah. And it's like subconscious arrogance where it's like, actually, guys, women are super fucking smart. And you guys have been holding us down for so long that as we start to break out of these shells that they've created for us, we're coming out and we're like, whoa, hey, wait a minute. I've got this really great way of looking at the world. And it doesn't matter my gender, and we can all actually really benefit from one another. But once men realize that we're not trying to take anything from them, that it's not a pie, we're not trying to take a slice, we're just trying to have our own way.
There doesn't have to be a hierarchy.
Exactly.
It can't just be us coexisting peacefully.
Exactly. No, exactly. And and I think that's the scary thing, is that when we finally all figure that out, what an amazing world this could be, right?
I know, right?
It's like a no-brainer to me. It's so simple. And I've got so many male supporters, not to get off track, but I've got so many male supporters that come through all the time and they send me DMs and they're like, I love your stuff and I get what you're saying. To think that I've even made, like, you have talked to your partner and said, listen, like, check this out. This is actually what happens. You would say that my TikToks are absurd, not you personally, but people would say how absurd that it's not, this is the reality, right? Yeah. How stupid when you flip it around the other way, because that would never be the case. But when you see how the world is actually operating in a lot of facets, that's what's happening. And so to go back to what you were asking originally, not to get off track, is that I think we're still progressing. And I think women need to still remember that what we're seeing is because of the absurdity of it. That's why it's the loudest. And it's really easy to get bogged down, and that feels really, really heavy. But I think we all need to remember that. I think we continue to move into the right direction. I think with social media, with outlets, with women gathering, with conversations, with open dialogue, I think that we are actually making great strides. And I think we need to continue that direction, because the second that we feel like we're down and there's nowhere else for us to go, that's when you can get into a place of depression, of, and not even just in the clinical sense. I just think that's an easy way to keep us down. Right. And so even through the media, through blasting us with all the stuff that's going on, it's really easy for me to be like, I can't do these TikToks anymore. I'm tired. Like, emotionally, mentally, I'm tired. But it's like big picture. So, I mean, I think we're moving in the right direction. I think in the workplace, women are sticking up for themselves. I think the women that we're raising are definitely more outspoken. And that's a good thing.
My daughter's
their new superpower. Yeah. I
bet your daughters are cool too.
Oh, my daughters aren't taking shit from anybody. And I stand right behind them like, you don't take shit from anybody.
Don't ever take anyone's shit. I always tell my kids that. Don't ever put up with anyone's shit. No, it's interesting that we both referenced our interactions with Running with Scissors, because I was talking to her the other night, and it also is very powerful to me that you mentioned that it's not necessarily what's most important, but it is what's the loudest right now. Because she and I were talking, I'm going to have her listen to this podcast. I'll bring her on at a later time and all three of us will talk. And that'll be really interesting.
That'd be awesome.
But she was expressing her anxiety about the situation in Texas and situations that go on, like in South Dakota with the trans ban and things like that. And I told her, I said, you can't let yourself think like that, because it'll take you to a place you don't want to go.
Yeah.
And there will always be people like them, and there will always be people like us. And you got to kind of almost hold on to that hope, because surely there cannot be this many assholes in the world. Like, if I'm talking to you and you're talking to me, there's just as many not assholes too.
Yeah.
So I think you're right about what you say. Not that you need me to tell you you're right or wrong. I'm not the key holder of right or wrong.
No,
but I think
the affirmation, sure.
Yeah, it's a key observation that you see that, okay, this is what's amplified right now, but it's not necessarily the truth. I think that's a really beautiful notion, actually, and it's a good reminder.
And not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but
you're
the
fine.
Reason, the fact, even in the matter that it is amplified, is the fact that we're even talking about it. Right? Yeah. Trans people exist. Here they are in your face. Like, this is the reality. So before, when we weren't talking about it, I think it's actually even more detrimental. So it's gonna get ugly before it gets pretty, right?
Oh yeah, the white men, they're over here like, we're a dying breed. You're not dying. You're fine.
Peace out.
Sir, that is the shallow end. It is 3 foot deep. Stand up.
roll over, get your face out of the water.
God. Men. These men. You got one at home? Oh, they're cute. A lot of work, though.
A lot of work, though.
Even in modern society, women are no doubt the brunt of most of white men's jokes, additional to sexual harassment, insensitivity to single parenting, the wage gap, and much more. But there's a whole other category for people in other marginalized groups, like LGBTQ, minorities. It's not a competition, and there's no prize. But how would you compare those struggles? Would you say it's equally as impalatable for the minorities as it? I mean, I talked a little bit about that with my partner, Eric, you know, that he's a minority, but I'm a woman. Like, do you think that, I mean, you're LGBTQ in the workplace, and you're also a woman. So how would you, I mean, is it worse?
So, you know, I don't even think that you could, I personally wouldn't be able to say, okay, out of 100%, right? Women have 50% of the struggle, whereas African-Americans have 20%. I don't even think you could do it in that type of manner. I don't think it's better or worse. I think it's a matter of what you yourself are experiencing or seeing a minority group experience and you want to support, you feel passionate about. I think it's really important, especially if you feel passionate about it, to get your voice out there. So if I say was married to a person of color and saw the way that they struggle in society, and I would be very, very passionate about it at that moment, because in my life, that would be something that, you know, was very prevalent to me. It's the same thing when George Floyd and all of that stuff was happening. And it was like, you know, white people have to stand up. Everybody needs to stand up, right? Yeah. So I think it's important for everybody. And I really feel like minority groups should band together. We should all be supporting each other, because as minority groups in a generalized sense, it's like women understand what it's like to be a minority. Black people understand what it's like to be a minority. People of color understand, and we've all got our own struggles. I don't think that you could say one is worse than another. I think when I was in my young 20s, LGBT was huge for me. It was a big issue for me. I was just coming out. I was getting, people were, you know, driving by, yelling slurs, all kinds of stuff. And so I was right in the thick of it at that moment. And I'm not saying that if you're not in the thick of it, you shouldn't be supporting some sort of minority group, because I know there are plenty of cis, het people out there that are like, well, it doesn't really affect me. So, you know, I never think you should just be complacent while other people are struggling, ever. Yeah. And don't even get me started like on distribution of wealth, because that's a whole nother story. So anyway.
You and I like to rant. We have a lot.
I know, right? I keep having to I digress. Let me bring it back.
It's all important stuff. I get it. I'm right there with you. I'm like, we need to tackle this, and this today.
Let's do it.
Get it out of me.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess at that time in my life, in my 20s, I was very, very passionate about LGBTQIA+ issues. So I was like, in your face, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to march about it. I'm going to make out with women on the street just to tell you, fuck you about it. Like, I didn't care, right? It was like, I'll do whatever I want. And we can dry hump on the street and you can get pissed about it and I don't care. So but that's what I was passionate about at the time, right? So now, raising daughters, again, I've had a shift in kind of my own sense, and I'm not as angry. You know, in my 20s, that's like that angry rager stage for me. Not that everyone goes through it, but I certainly was like, I was pissed. So, you know, and I think now my anger has just shifted into.
It's a calm anger. It's an intelligent
right?
anger.
Yeah, it's like this kind of like underlying subtle, pissy hilariousness.
Yeah. Your anger comes out on TikTok, you know. I mean, that's how it's a coping mechanism for some of us. Yeah. And it's a healing, it's a cathartic thing, I think.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've had three abusive ex-husbands. I mean, and I didn't realize when I got on TikTok how many other women had that experience. And you wouldn't think it's just an app, it's just technology, and the internet can be used for good and it can be used for evil. But I think in that case, like things like what we promote on our TikToks, like that is a use of good. So, and that's where we're allowed to be angry. It's like you said, reversing the narrative so they can see how dumb they look. Yeah. It's better than yelling at them, you know?
Yeah. It's better received for sure.
Yeah. You make your own conclusions when you watch this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
If the shoe fits,
If you're not laughing and the rest of us are, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, maybe you have some things to work out. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. Okay, so we're back with Dragonflies and Whiskey talking about white man entitlement in the workplace. So, Amy, what, if anything, do you think women can do to eliminate this culture for ourselves? Is it a matter of time and change, voting, simple refusal to put up with anybody's shit, or just simply quitting the workforce or quitting it all? And for the women who don't have the option to just walk away from it all or stand up to it, what advice would you give them?
So first question, I would say it's a matter of all of the above. So everything you just stated there, I think we're all very different. Some of us are very loud. Some of us are in the front lines, picketing, rallying, and others kind of sit idly by, but are quietly supportive in their own way. And I think all ways are just as important. I don't think that we should be out here instructing women to yell in the face of their white male chauvinist boss. It's just not necessarily always the best method. And I think every situation is different. At least that's been my experience. I've worked for a lot of good old boy clubs, organizations up to corporations, where I've sat back and I've always been the first of their kind. Look at the lesbian who works here. How crazy.
Oh my God.
So many times it's literally me and I'm surrounded by white men. And it's the funniest dynamic ever. And I don't know how I end up in these spaces.
Like they adopted you or something?
No, it's insane. I'm end up.
Look at this one we picked up outside of.
Yeah, look how diverse we are. Yeah, and I'm always just sitting there like, how do I end up in these situations? Like I'm looking around like, how in the hell did I even get here? And so I don't even know. I don't mean
to laugh. I'm sorry you had that.
No, it's hilarious.
I can see it on the white men's faces. Like, there I was at the loafing jug. Can you believe this just showed up? I'm powdering for the see.
And now it's working for us. Look at this.
And you're just like, totally it. I'm just here to get a paycheck.
Yeah, I'm wearing slacks too. I know it's crazy, right? Women in slacks.
Yeah. They're like, look, she's wearing Carhartt. I'm wearing Carhartt. I'm woke.
So much in common. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. Anyway.
I think that the most important thing is for women to be aware. I think that's been the hardest part for all of us, is all of the subliminal messaging and the not so subliminal messaging that's been thrown at us since birth, since we got that pink dress thrown on us. And
it's been inherited.
Exactly. And just passed down. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing is visibility, is awareness. And I think with awareness will come the know-how to handle a situation in front of you. If you're not aware of a situation, how would you handle it? You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think the other thing is finding other supportive women. I think power in numbers. And that's not a whole, be safe at nighttime, walk with more women. No, that's look, you're badass, I'm badass, let's be badass together, because 2 against 1, like, what are they going to say, right? And the more women that come forward and say, this is not okay. Like at the last Good Old Boys organization I worked for, I said, me and my wife are having a baby and there's no paternity leave on this thing. And even if there was paternity leave, how am I included in that? And the person that was in HR at the time was a woman, and she was badass, and we banded together, and she said, yeah, this is bullshit, and I'm writing you in to this plan. So now you've added paternity, and that's same-sex couples, and I got 4 weeks off paid.
That's amazing.
So it's like, I think it's those two things. Most importantly, awareness is key. If we don't know what's happening to us, we can't fight against it. I would definitely say strength in numbers in terms of knowing more women, getting out there. Social media has been a huge influence in meeting you and a bunch of other badass women that have really inspired me and my posts and all that stuff. But really the women that feed into the strength, it's pretty incredible.
I know for me, and you talked earlier about being exhausted, and I get that. For me, and it is exhausting to do this, but to question everything that comes my way and really ask myself, why am I doing this? Is it to please them? Like really questioning all the little parts. You almost have to reverse it, because it is so deeply ingrained. And then also you talk about women sticking together. Gloria Steinem, I reference this frequently on the podcast. I'm sure people are sick of hearing it.
Oh, she's brilliant.
She is. And her big thing is the talking groups of women, that no matter where she went, that you couldn't trust the news sources or the women talking, but the women have the information. And that's where you got to go. A man cannot understand a woman's issues. It's like you're talking about the laws and everything. I think like 6 years ago in South Dakota, we were having to get a pap smear every 6 months. Is because, you know, women are passing around the venereal diseases, you know, so it's like, yeah, somebody can't understand. I'm sorry, but they can't understand unless they're a woman. Men who are feminists want to say like, well, it hurts my feelings when you say your body, your choice, but it really is. I mean, honestly, you don't know what it is to have tits. You don't know what it is to frickin', you know, have to deal with a period. It's just,
God, no. Women are the first thing. And they can be supportive, and I think that's great. I think, you know, raise women up and listen. Like, men need to shut up and listen. Like, that's the thing. Just shut up and listen. And I would gladly do that. I think masculine and feminine energies in themselves are fascinating. I would gladly sit here and listen to any man's experience if he wants to share it with me. And non, you know, direct sort of, because they all tend to be so fucking hurt all the time by, God forbid you have any issues. It's like, well, I've got that issue too. It's like, Jesus, can you just talk from experience and not feel like you're being attacked? And anytime a woman stands up for herself.
Stop getting the ego involved. It's always ego. So here's a little Band-Aid and some ointment for that ego. So you're the president of WeMAD. Tell us how that came to be and how Doug feels about it.
Yes. Well, that's how Doug feels about it's going to be really important in a minute. So,
looking forward to it.
You know, what's hilarious is everyone's like, I've been asked this so many times, like, what was your inspiration for WeMAD? And it honestly came down to one stupid ass comment from some guy who said, you guys have equality. It's 100% fair. What more do you want? Like, frustrated. Right. And I thought, that is the most ridiculous thing. Are we even on the same planet? You know, this whole like 1960s men are from Mars, women for Venus. It's like, I call bullshit. You're an idiot. And, you know, it's like, you're just so mad about women wanting to have rights because you think it's going to take something away from you. That I was like, this is so ridiculous that I immediately found humor in it and thought, I'm going to flip this script and show how absolutely ridiculous this is. So we're going to come up with mandatory vasectomies, and Doug's going to say, don't you think we should talk about, you know, men should give a say? And I'm like, nope, Doug, and I'm going to sexualize you on the way out. Peace. No. Take your fucking shirt off. Like, like,
isn't that time of the month, Doug?
Exactly. Getting so emotional on me, man. Like, come on. Suck it up. What are you,
Why don't you smile more? Smile, Doug.
So, you know, the WeMAD thing, and everyone, I've had lots of people like, where'd you even come up with that? And it literally just flooded me after that comment.
So now it's a website.
Like, I was like furiously typing like all these notes, and I'm like, I got so much I want to say now. And honestly, I went from like 20,000 followers to 145,000 literally in like a month. It was insane. So
that trend will continue for you. You will probably surpass many of us on the app who have been there a little bit longer, just because.
I don't know. I'm just going to ride it.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a great thing what you have. It's a great thing. It's a powerful thing. It's a teaching tool what you've done. And you can see some of the men in the comments section are kind of like, huh. They're thinking about it. There's some who are like, no. Right. There's a lot that are like,
no. So mad at you. Not all men.
They're woman saying things.
Woman mean. Hurt feelings.
Woman existing. Ah.
Exactly. And for your second question, Doug actually likes WeMAD. He likes supporting WeMAD. He and I have created kind of a bond, even though I still aggravate the shit out of him and sexualize him because I'm still.
He's obnoxious. A sponsor. He sponsors WeMAD.
See, he even wore the Big V Energy shirt. So I got Doug on board, but I got to tell you, Bradford is not on board, and we're gonna have some issues with Bradford.
Bradford. Yeah, I was married to Bradford. That dick.
The guys that never seem to get it. That's Bradford.
Yeah, Bradford. We're lacking a few brain cells, that man. And his mother, don't even get me started on the mother.
Comes by.
It's always like that. It is. It's always the mama's boys who are like,
oof.
It's like, I just want to go punch the boomer woman in the face who raised them and be like, you did a great job.
I know, they pet them and then they pass them to the next woman to take care of them. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
no
that's more of that inherent internalized misogyny that we talk
absolutely.
about.
Absolutely.
I don't know about these females out here. Some of them are just as bad as the men.
Well, the women are raising them because they know that they can't do anything on their own or handle themselves. It's like strong, independent man. No, man needs woman to take care of him. It's like, honestly, when you think about it, it's like,
yeah, boy, not me. I'm like, I told my partner, I was like, I'm not doing shit for these boys. They need to figure it out, man. They need to figure it out. My daughter's not doing shit for them. Your sons are going to figure it because they're my stepchildren,
Yeah, still. Honestly, it makes you stronger out in the world. The best.
And I'm sure that you raise yours the same way, that each
Absolutely.
your own independent thing and not lessening yourself for the other individual, especially
exactly.
with daughters. Oh, wow, Amy, I feel great.
I hope so. I'm sorry if I put a bunch of stuff on you. Hopefully it was a release.
Yeah, I'm going to have a great morning now. I hope you do too. We're both going to go down to our local, grocery store and just punch some poor unsuspecting man in the face, smile, and walk out.
Yeah, right. Say, see you, Doug.
Yeah. You can call HR at WeMAD if you have any
complaints.
Right.
That's right. So. Yeah, and we won't give a shit. So
we'll call you back in 6 months to 3 years. You'll be getting a coupon in the mail.
That's right.
So, do you have anything that you'd like to plug? Website, charity, things you have going on, or anything like that?
I have the WeMAD merch.
Okay.
Yeah, we got
very
all
nice
kinds of stuff. It's over at dragonfliesandwhiskey.com. I actually purchased WeMAD.org, and I'm going to create a website there since I do it for a living anyway, but it would be fun to kind of bring everything together, all the channels and all that fun stuff. So I'm working on that. But I do have an Instagram. It's Dragonflies and Whiskey over there as well. And a YouTube channel that seems to be taking off a little bit, which I'm going to get a little bit more creative over there. And that one is Women Make All Decisions, AKA WeMAD. You can find it just by typing in WEMAD.
Cool. Well, if you ever want to guest on there, I am happy to volunteer.
Awesome.
I want to thank you for your time today, and everybody go follow Dragonflies and Whiskey. I'm your host, Brooke. Be sure to check out the Truth for Grummer website, Insta, Twitter, and we'll see you next time on Bite Me.